While I was working on the triangular prism 3x3, which by the way is one of my most favorite 3x3 mods to date, I was working on a side project which was a fuse cube version of that puzzle. I cut two 3x3s down pretty much the exact same way that I made for the triangular prism, and then I did a fuse cube mod to fuse the two of them together. After this was done, I took the puzzle over to my belt sander and I sanded the faces down so that they were more or less flat so I could get started on filling all the pieces. This modification really wasn't that much more complicated than building a regular triangular prism. That being said, there were a few quirks to this modification, which is one of the reasons why this video took a little longer than usual to upload. After I finished sanding all the faces down, this is what the puzzle looked like. As you can see, it's very similar to the triangular prism, just with an extra 3x3 hanging on the end there. So after that was done, I took the puzzle over to my bandsaw and I cut the top and bottom corners off, much like I did for the triangular prism build. On a side note, I've tilted the table here to 35 degrees instead of 45 degrees. The reason I've done that is because in order to cut the corner off, you need to have it at 35 degrees, and you might wonder why I didn't just lay the puzzle flat on the faces that I cut. And the reason I didn't do that is because I don't have a full guarantee that they're perfectly level yet, so I like to use the original faces of the puzzle to guide the way that I cut. This is not the safest way to do it, but it's just a little easier. I took the puzzle over to my desk so that I could disassemble it and clean up all the pieces to get ready for filling. As usual, I was just going to be filling the pieces first, and after I'd sanded everything down, I would begin the extending. I stuffed all the pieces with epoxy sculpt, and then I reassembled the puzzle to get it ready for sanding. After everything was all assembled, I took the puzzle over to my belt sander and I began sanding down all the faces. I was going really slowly here because I was trying to match all of the dimensions of the original triangular prism. I really wanted this puzzle to look identical to that, just a little longer. However, there was one fatal flaw with my plan, but I'll show you that at the end of the video. I disassembled the puzzle because now it was time to extend all of the pieces. I peeled all of the stickers off, and then I scratched up all of the surfaces that I was going to be applying epoxy sculpt to. On some of the pieces, I wouldn't be able to extend both sides of them for reasons that'll become a little more apparent later on in this build, but I still sanded down one half of them, as you can see here, and you can see the contrast between the surface finishes of either side. After all the pieces were extended and the puzzle was reassembled, it was time to sand everything down, but I couldn't use my belt sander because it was very late at night, and I can't use my belt sander at night because the council said no and I'm on my final warning, so I strapped a belt down to my desk and I sanded everything down by hand. I really wish I could use my belt sander for this. This took like 2 hours. But anyways, after everything was sanded down, it was time to round over all the edges of each of the pieces so I could finish this puzzle up and call this build done. After everything was rounded off, I reassembled the puzzle, and I also took an opportunity while I was there to fix up a couple pieces that weren't up to scratch. But after that was done, here it is, the puzzle is complete. Now there are 3 really interesting things I want to talk about with this puzzle. The first is you'll notice there are some notches in the center. Now those have to be there in order for the puzzle to function. If I was to extend those pieces, they would intersect with one another and the puzzle just wouldn't turn, so they really have to be there. And secondly, I only stick it up one face on this puzzle to show that it is kind of mirrored. Now I made the cuts in the right place, but I reassembled the puzzle incorrectly, and because of the way the cuts are made, the puzzle is now the mirror image of the triangular prism, which I was trying to make a tower version of. I kinda like it, it looks pretty cool, but I would have preferred them to look identical. And thirdly, you'll notice that I stick it up just one face here. Now this isn't because of my usual laziness. I actually want to fix those notches in the center, and I have a fair idea of how I can go about doing that. But it means an extensive remodification of this puzzle, and there's no point cutting all the stickers by hand if I'm just going to tear them off later on in this build. But anyways, I really like the look of this puzzle, and I actually think it was a lot easier and more approachable than I first thought. In fact, I would go to say it's just as easy as making a regular triangular prism. So if you like this video, then make sure to like it, and if you really liked it, make sure to subscribe. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.